In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Claude to do your work by fully automating your SOPs or standard operating procedures. The Claude Chrome extension is going to take control of your browser and actually execute on the task. So also notice while this is happening, my hands are up here. I'm not touching my keyboard. This is the AI taking control of my browser and actually doing the work. I'll just let this run through till the end. And there you go. It just finished running. So what I'm about to show you right now is probably the most underrated thing on the internet, where you would use a tool called Tango, which is the quickest and easiest way to create a step-by-step how-to guide on how to do anything you do on your computer. Then I'm going to show you how to convert that into an automation where Claude takes control of your browser. And I'll show you how you can even set that on a schedule so that you can run that process daily, weekly. And on top of that, if you stick around till the end of this video, I will even show you a secret trick on how to make your Claude Chrome extension run much faster and much cheaper. First of all, this is the process we're going to be following. All right. It's a total of 33 steps. Okay. And I will include the link to this how-to guide in the description. All right. So I used a tool called Tango to create this how-to guide. And ironically, it's the same tool that I'm going to be using to actually document a process to create that step-by-step how-to guide that we pass into the AI. So let me show you how to do it. First step, you want to click on this link over here, which will take you to Tango AI. And Tango is a Chrome extension. I already have it installed over here. Okay. And you simply click this button, start capture, and you then do the process manually. It captures the whole process with screenshots and everything. And then you can even edit it afterwards. So what you want to do is you want to click on get the extension. Make sure you're using the Chrome browser when you're doing this. Click the button, add to Chrome, and install it, create an account. They do have a free plan. So before we go ahead and continue with all these steps, we first need to actually go and create a how-to guide. Let's go and do that first. I'm going to do the example of creating a contact in HubSpot, a CRM. And after creating the contact, I'm then going to go to Asana and I'm going to create a new task. What you want to do is make sure you open up Tango and click on Start Capture. Now it's getting ready to capture. And there you go. Now you can see as I hover over anything, any button, it adds that orange rectangle, which is identifying all the user interface elements that you can click on or type into. If you have secure information, like for example, maybe you don't want to share people's email addresses, they have a feature called Secure Blur, and you can just check email addresses and it'll blur them all. I'll just leave it like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and execute the process that I would do manually so that we have the how-to guide. You could also toggle this button, which is voice transcription, which will record your voice while you're doing the process. So that's also an option if you need more context or more details for how the process is done. So step one is you want to click on Add Contacts. You can see it added, click on Add Contacts and a screenshot, then Create New. Now it added the second step for clicking Create New. Now for the email, let's type jamesbond@007.com. First name, James, last name, Bond. Notice how it even blurs out the email for the screenshot over there. Then for the lead status, we can select New. Legal basis, we can choose Customer. And we can then click Create. Cool stuff. So you can see it added all of those steps for us there. Next, I'm going to click over to Asana, and now it should have added like a navigate link. We'll then click on Create, Task, and the task name, we can type something like Schedule Call with Bond, James Bond. Then click on Customer Onboarding, Priority, choose High, and then click Create Task. By the way, you can also click on this pause button if you need to like navigate to a different page that's, not part of the process you're documenting. You can go there and then you can click Resume, and then you can carry on clicking the different UI elements. But in our case, we're done. That's all we need to do. And we can click this green check mark. And now Tango is auto-magically creating your workflow. It's going to create that whole how-to guide with a title, the screenshots, So this is what's really powerful about Tango as well. You can actually go and edit the whole process to make sure that it's doing exactly what you need it to. So let's see, give it a name, create HubSpot contact, and assign a task. That's cool. Let's just rename this and call it customer onboarding. Great. Now for the steps, click on add contact and then click on create new. You can see it bundled this into one step. So this is because usually this is like for a human readable how-to guide. So you'd usually share this with somebody on your team so that they can follow the steps. And sometimes bundling similar tasks like that is better to put it into one. But because we're feeding this into an AI, it's better to separate every single step so that the AI is able to identify every user interface element separately. So to separate everything, you can simply click this button here and it will separate the two. So you can see just by clicking that button, now we have two separate tasks. Click on add contact. There's the screenshot for that. And then click on create new. And there's the screenshot for that. Perfect. Next, we have type email, type first name, type last name. Let's once again make it its own steps. So we have type email, type last name, and then there's first name. If you want to reorder them, you can just drag and rearrange them like that. If you want to delete something like this empty task, you can press this bin and delete it. Then next we have click on lead status and then click lead status. Once again, let's separate that. And what's important here is for clicking lead status, you can see it hasn't specified which one. So we know in this process, it must always select new. So you can click this little drop down, click make this specific, to select the same option every time during the guide me. Okay. And then you can see it's on new. You could always edit that if you want. You can click edit screenshot. You can move that around to a different option, but we'll leave it as new. Click save. Next is Asana. You can see here, it includes the link that it needs to navigate to. So that's good. Then type in text field. That's fine. You can also give more context for the AI, and you can do that by adding alt text. So you click here and you can type whatever, enter new task name in this format, schedule, call with, and then we can add some variables. This is just the way the AI could understand it. First name and then last name, something like that. Let me make sure that's spelled correctly. Click save. Cool. So now that alternative text will be provided as context to the AI when documenting the process. Click on project. That's fine. Select an option. We want to choose a drop down, make this specific, and it must be customer onboarding. Great. Click on priority and then select an option. Let's make this specific again, and let's make it high. Click on create task. There you go. And by the way, you can also click this little plus. And if you want to add a step manually, you can click on insert read only step. And one other thing I also wanted to mention, which is really powerful, that you can only do with Tango and you can't do it with the Claude Chrome extension, is you can add decision points. If I click that, you can basically add paths depending on different conditions, which you can write over there. And you can write more details on when to take different paths. You can see it will split between those different paths, and you can add different steps so that the AI can decide as it goes through the flow. But yeah, in this case, I'm going to keep it to no decision trees or anything like that. That's it. I'm happy with that. Now that you've created a Tango or a how-to guide, you can click this share and export, click continue. And now this guide can be shared with anyone on your team by simply sharing their email addresses. You can embed it in any documentation, or in our case, we want to export this into markdown so that we can pass this workflow into a prompt so that the AI can actually execute the steps. Okay, so we can click copy to clipboard. And if I come to a text editor and I paste that in, here is all the steps. So it'll say, go to this HubSpot URL, then click on add contacts. Then it's got the screenshots. I can even copy this just to show you that this is the screenshot from our how-to guide. And it has a screenshot for every single step. Now, This is okay, but it's not the format that AI is best able to actually execute a task. Having screenshots is very slow and it's unreliable. So I'm going to show you a way on how to convert these screenshots into XPath selectors, which is basically just a piece of code that is in your browser that the AI knows, okay, I must click on that button or that input field or whatever the case is. So having the actual code for each step will make the automation run a lot faster and a lot cheaper. But you don't need to worry. You don't need to know how to code. I've made it extremely simple where the AI will actually go and capture all the different XPaths for you. If you're curious what an XPath actually looks like, you can right-click on a UI element, go inspect. Okay, there it is. So you can see this is the code that represents that. But if you right-click on this, you can go to copy, and you say copy XPath. And if I come here, you can replace this screenshot. I'll delete that and paste in the XPath. So that code there represents that button. So in order to convert the Tango SOP into the XPath SOP, you're going to need to use the Claude Chrome extension to do that. So I have a prompt, which would be this prompt over here, together with your SOP that was created by Tango, and it'll convert it for you. So first step, you want to make sure that you have the Claude Chrome extension installed, which is this one here. Click Add to Chrome. Create an account if you don't already have one. Now that we have installed our Chrome extension, we can then copy this prompt. Okay, so you can just highlight all of that and right-click copy. So now it's in our clipboard. Next, you want to paste it into the input field for Claude. You want to actually go to where the automation starts. So in our case, it's on HubSpot over here. Open up Claude Chrome extension and then paste it in over there. Okay, now you'll see below this step, SOP to convert, this is where we need to paste the actual Tango markdown SOP. I'll click share and export, markdown, copy. Then I will come back here and I will click Shift Enter to go to the new line over there and then Control V to paste it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm also just going to select this act without asking. I'm going to run this. And now it's doing two things. The first thing is that it's actually running the process from the SOP that we just provided. You can see what it's going to do is it's going to take screenshots of every single step. The AI is going to interpret that screenshot, figure out what XPath or what selector to click or interact with. It'll then click it and then the process goes on. You can see it just clicked on add contact top right and now it's going to click on create new. After it creates new, it's going to open up that creating a new contact pane. There it is. Okay, and now it's going to enter some dummy information or placeholder data for email, first name and last name, and create the contact. Then it's going to move on to Asana and execute the whole task. Now, while it's doing this, it's actually doing something very smart in the back end where it's busy capturing the XPath for all the steps. So that was provided in the prompt that I gave it over here. Identify the element and then derive the candidate XPath. All right. So within these instructions, I'm telling it exactly how to extract the code for every element that it needs to click. And this is kind of the secret sauce because with this, it's now able to take that as context and the next time it runs, it's going to run a lot faster because it knows what button to click immediately, as opposed to relying on screenshots and figuring out what to click. It does take a while for the first time that it runs when it's deriving all those XPath selectors. So what I'll do is I will just skip to the part where this has finished running. So it just finished running and you can see it's busy generating now the XPath SOP. So you can see there's the XPath for all the steps. It keeps the step names, the action, like this one's typing, this one's clicking, etc. So this is perfect. You can see here's where it now navigates to the Asana URL and then it continues all the steps in Asana. I also just want to remind you that this use case of using HubSpot and Asana, this is just for the demo. You could literally execute this exact same process for anything that you do in Chrome, any website, any app. You can use this method that I'm showing you to automate anything. I know HubSpot and Asana have APIs, so this isn't something you would necessarily do because you could use an API which is more reliable and it's faster. But that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to show you how to automate any process, whether it has an API or not. So here it is. I'm going to copy this. So you can click this little copy button over there. It'll copy all those steps and then just paste it into a notepad file. So I'm just going to replace all of that with this. Okay, so now we have our XPath SOP. Next, go to the browser settings and click Create Shortcut. Inside of your Claude Chrome extension, click these three dots and then go to Settings. Okay, then click on Shortcuts and then click Create Shortcut. Okay, we can close Tango for now. The reason we're creating a shortcut is this way you'll be able to very easily trigger your automation by simply using a / command, and you can even set it on a schedule, as you can see over here. So for the task name, I'm just going to call this customer onboarding. Okay. Next, you want to enter the start from URL, which is the link where the automation starts. So you can get that from your XPath SOP. It will be right at the top. It'll say URL. So copy just the URL, Control C, and paste that in over there. Next, you want to paste in your prompt. Copy this second prompt. Okay. Then we'll paste the prompt over here. Okay. So next you want to come to your text file and just copy all these variables at the bottom, first name, last name, email, Control C, and then come back here and underneath this section, you want to paste in those variables. Then you want to actually enter the variables that you want your automation to enter. I could simply come here and write name, for example, Peter Parker, and then enter maybe Peter Parker's email address, or I could leave these as is, and then you can see it'll ask the user for the values if they're not provided. I'm not going to provide the values so that I can provide them at runtime every time I run this shortcut. Next, we want to enter the SOP. So below this line, Shift Enter, we want to paste this entire thing. Control C and then Control V. Next, if you want, you can set it on a schedule. For example, if you want it to run daily at 12 a.m. and you choose whichever model you want and click Create Shortcut. In this case, because you need to provide the email address and the usernames, you can't set that on a schedule. So I'll keep this disabled and I'll keep it as a manual trigger for now. And I'll click Create Shortcut. Great, there it is, customer onboarding. Now, to trigger that, you can open your Chrome extension for Claude, hit /, and then you'll see under Shortcuts, you can select customer onboarding, or you can start typing / cus and you'll see it'll come up. If you click it, it's automatically going to open the starting URL, in our case, the contacts page on HubSpot. Then after here is where I can provide the detail names. So I can say Peter Parker, and then I can write Peter Parker at Sony.com. Once we've done that, I can send that in. I probably should have chosen a faster model, but it's fine. Let's just leave it as is. But you can see now, click contact, create contacts. Now it's going to enter the email, first name and last name. There you go, first name, Peter Parker at Sony.com, great. And then the last name, Parker, perfect. Now it should scroll down and complete the rest of the fields. And now the process is going to continue until it actually goes to Asana and creates the new task. Also, one thing I wanted to mention is Claude does have a feature to actually capture the whole process, which is this at the bottom here, where you can teach Claude and you do the process manually, similar to like we did in Tango. I actually don't like using this feature. It's much better to use a Tango because you have a lot more control over the process. You can edit the process, you can add other steps, whereas with that Teach Claude feature, it's not as good as Tango. You can't have multi-branch step flows like you can in Tango. Tango is also nice because you can share those processes with your team as well. So it's got a lot of other use cases as well. It's not just for providing documentation to AI, but also to provide step-by-step guides to your team. But you can see the process has been running much faster than previously. We had to like cut the video because it took like 10 minutes to run previously using the screenshots. But now with this new method, it's a lot faster. You can see it's using the JavaScript tool over there. So you can see it's not taking screenshots. It'll only take screenshots if it runs into an error and it uses a screenshot as a fallback to try and figure out what went wrong and then continue from there. There you go. There is schedule call with Peter Parker. Look how it even put in the name. And that's also because in our documentation, we instructed it to do that. If this video is helpful, please do subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next.